good afternoon.
Hey,
Uh,
hi.
yeah, so let's get started with this very first round of the data engineer interview. So I'll start by introducing myself, and then we can go ahead with your introduction, followed by questions and discussions about the projects that you have done earlier. So yeah, so I am Surbhi, and I have been working in the data engineering field since 7 years. I have worked with multiple clouds like Azure, AWS, and SQL is the go-to language for all the data people, be it checking the data quality, or be it analyzing the quality of data that is coming, or picking out the insights out of the data. SQL is the go-to language that I have been using, and yep. Then with the coming of the big data, so PySpark is also something that I have been using in my daily tasks. So, yep. So that is pretty much about me. And yeah, we can then get started with your introduction.
Sure. First of all, thank you so much, Surbi, for your brief introduction. So, this is 𝐼𝐚𝐬𝐭. I have completed my graduation in the year 2019 from computer science domain. And during my graduation only, I got placed in one of the market research company as a data analyst. And I started my career in the pharmaceutical healthcare domain, where I got to learn about data handling. And my primary task was involved making sure data was cleaned, accurate, and presented it to the client in a desirable format. And then I got recognized by my employer by going beyond and above with Extra Mile Award. And I was also part of the best team key player. So that led me my passion into data domain. Hence, I transitioned myself from data analyst to big data domain. Now, currently, I am actually contributing to the electrical utility domain in my current organization, where we have the goal to provide clean energy solution, right? And now, during this span, I have successfully implemented end-to-end ETL pipeline utilizing various AWS services. I was also part of, creating an automation framework that enables downstream jobs to run on both ad hoc as well as scheduling basis. I was also part of the business requirement wherein the business wanted to have a script that would, in advance let us know like what is the script utilization. Let's say if I have $1,000 per month budget, and if any service that is going to surpass that, $1,000, so we should have something in place that would let us notify, okay, we have this service that is going to surpass the budget. So I did successfully work on that and it went well. Apart from that, I recently completed one of the certification in data warehousing, that is Snowflake, wherein I did learn about the data integration like through NiFi and then loading it to the data warehousing. Then we have some analytical queries on top of that and the way we provide dashboarding on top of that. So that's pretty much all from my side. Thank you.
Oh, that's a lot of work that you have. Great. And I think I do have something in common with you. That is my pharma experience. So I do have worked in the pharma domain for like 5 years, and it's good to know that you have also worked in the pharma projects.
Yep.
Okay. So who do you think for the pharma related companies, who do you think is the main person who they are trying to analyze all the time with the help of the data?
So basically, like the data requirement was something we had the survey type data. So basically, we had all the people that are residing in US. They need to have the surveys implemented, and they need to complete the survey. So as soon as survey is completed, then all the data that comes to us. Now in our organization, we had multiple teams. The one team that built that survey to provide to the end users, and our main responsibility was to analyze the data that was incoming, whether it is right or not, whether as per the questionnaire that we have provided to them, they have provided the right answer or not, because that survey basically includes bounty, some kind of bounty as well. So once you complete that survey, you would get some kind of amount as kind of appreciation. So there are some outliers as well. As we can see in the data domain, we have multiple outliers, so some kind of human outliers are there as well. So they just complete the survey just to get the bounty, right? So our part was main involving identifying those outliers as well and making sure data was accurate to the end client. And then we had this desirable format in an Excel using one of the tool that we are using, and then we just pasted it to the client. So in our project, we were the main we were the main team that was quality, doing quality checks and making sure data was cleaned and presented to the client in a format that client needs. So that was the main requirement.
Okay, okay. So a couple of questions here. in which format were you receiving the data? Like, for example, I am the person who is taking the survey. So I'll
Correct.
just take the survey, I'll write down my answers, and then I'll give it to you. Was it in a paper pen format, or was it a computerized format in which the survey was given to the user?
Correct. So basically, how it went. So basically, as I mentioned, we had one team that develops the entire survey, right? So we have single question that needs to be done, multiple questions that needs to be ticked out, and then rating questions. So they just design all the questions, and that questions would be sent to the end user. Now, end user would be having one kind of website wherein they would just using using online, they would be doing all the checks and everything. And in our case, we receive data in terms of SPSS. So SPSS is a kind of tool that we are, having that. It is a statistical tool. So in that format, we get the data, all the entries of users, and then we need to kind of write one script on top of that. So that script is kind of the scripting language that we used to do, wherein we used to have all the you can say programming concepts where you can just do loop, you can just do all the while loop, all the concepts, if else check statements in order to do the quality check. So we were using the SPSS in order to analyze that data basically. So yeah, that was the requirement.
The scripting also you were doing in SPSS, the scripting language.
SPSS, correct.
Okay, SPSS.
Correct.
Okay. So it was like a on-prem kind of a project where you were not utilizing.
Yeah, it is more like the data analysis side, and then I transitioned myself into the big data domain where I understand about the cloud technology, distribution, distributed data processing, everything. So that was the, you can say as a fresher, it was a very good kickstart to my career, wherein I just got to know like how to handle a smaller kind of data set. And when I just landed into the big data domain, where I understand, okay, now we are having these millions and billions of rows. Now how do we need to tackle those? So that's where like we started one project that was based on the scratch from start to end, ATL pipeline, as I mentioned in my introduction. So that's where my major role plays into.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it's great. Like, you first handle the small kind of data, and then when you move to the big data, you could have understood that, okay, oh my God, what nuances
That's right.
could bring in. Yep.
Right.
Okay. So let's now move to discussing one of the big data projects that you have done. And yeah, you can just let me know what the project was, for whom the project was being implemented. And yeah, we can
Sure.
have a cloud project also that I would want to know from your side.
Sure, definitely. So this was the project that like we recently migrated to the AWS side, and we had this requirement to have everything started running on the AWS only. So like that was the requirement. We had one database wherein we had all the manual entries, and those entries are not entirely accurate. Now the business requirement was we need to update that database. Now how do you update that database? So we had all other databases in our account. Now you just go inside historic outages. I mean, the data that we had, it is related to outages, that outage start time and outage end time, right? So you just need to go into the, databases and try to find out what could be the best mapping to the, manual database, and what are our findings where we can say that, hey, the wrong entries can be replaced with the latest entries that we found. So how would you do that? So you also need some data scientist team as well in this place to provide you recommendation. Hey, we are saying that this is correct because we have this score, like out of 100 we have 98% accuracy, 95% accuracy, right? So this was the main requirement wherein we need to update the manual entries based on the multiple data that we have in our databases. Now, so for that reason, we started utilizing the AWS Glue in order to extract the data that is residing in another account. So we used AWS Glue, that is ETL approach. So we did all kind of transformation, extracting data, transforming it, and loading it in our S3 bucket. Now, as soon as the data is there in S3 bucket, we did had some kind of quality checks as well in place, right? That is pre-check and post-validation check that would help you to ensure that your data is correct before loading it and after we have loaded the data. So once quality check is done, then you would be having one DynamoDB table wherein we are loading all the data from S3 to DynamoDB table. That DynamoDB table is being processed by the data scientist team. Now everything here now comes under the data scientist bucket. Now they take the data, they do some kind of model optimization on top of that, and based on the recommendation, they provide it to the, like we have one UI, that in that UI you would get to see that previously I had this manual entry. I mean, this is a manual entry, and now I am just providing this is the best accuracy we can provide. Now the end user, that is the product owner or end user, they would go to the UI and they would see like if it is the better, accuracy, we can say, and then they approve or reject based on the, their expertise. So that was the whole end-to-end scenario wherein we were leveraging S3, AWS Glue. We were using a step function as an orchestrate to all the jobs, and then DynamoDB in place. We also have DynamoDB streams. Yeah, I mean Kinesis streams that would that is checking the capture data, right? So whenever there is an insert, update, and delete happening to the DynamoDB table, that would capture your details and load it to the S3 bucket. So that was also one part of integration we had. So this is the entire concept of our data. I mean, our project that we had.
Okay. Okay. So I think one good thing is that you as data engineer were extracting the data, doing all the quality checks, transforming it, and then finally giving it to data science, who were
Correct.
basically the consumers of the data, and then they would finally send it to the client.
That is correct. Yes.
Okay. So out of whatever description that I was able to understand, I have a few questions that I would like to ask. So I think you explained all the components that you use. So can you just rename each of the component that you are using, just the technical components that you have in the AWS tech stack?
All right. So it is, first of all, it is event bridge. That is your scheduling component, event bridge. I mean, that is scheduler job every day. So that is your event bridge. Then we have lake formation and IAM policy in place. Why do we have that? Because we need to have certain permission to certain users. We don't want to have exposure to all the employees. And then lake formation, because we need to say that we are going to extract data from this particular database and we need permission from them as well. Like we are going to have this request. So lake formation is in place right now. S3 bucket, basically we want to extract the data and load the data. So that's where we have this object related S3 bucket. Now we have this glue. Why are we using glue? Because it is suitable for our need. Then we have step function, as I mentioned, to orchestrate the job. Then DynamoDB is in place to suitable for the data scientist team. Then Kinesis in order to capture the change data and again loading back to S3. So these are the major tech stack that we were dealing with.
Okay. Okay. So you mentioned about using glue. So I would like to ask why you were not using AWS EMR and why were you using glue? Because AWS EMR can also use the power of Spark and, use kind of, huge data can be processed in EMR as well. So why was the preference more towards glue and not towards EMR?
Sure. I agree what you said, like EMR, AWS EMR can also be a part of that one instead of Glue. I totally agree on that. But the thing was that during the initial phase when we were doing kind of POC, like what kind of the end-to-end our project would be. So in that case, we realized that our data was going to be easy to moderate level. Like we would not be having that much kind of volume every day. So in that case, having to use AWS EMR and providing all the instances and configurations that are going to be keep in idle but not going to utilize that much. So that was the need. Like Glue can be useful because you don't need to handle the infrastructure. It is going to scale up or scale down whenever your data is low, whenever your data is high. So but in case of EMR, you are having a static configuration that I want to have this one. So based on that, we realized that Glue would be more efficient. It is also like you just need to provide the DPU, and based on DPU, it would just cost you on that. Wherein in EMR we have instances and what kind of configurations, what kind of service, I mean machines you are utilizing. So that case EMR was going a little bit costlier side. And then we have like 8 to 10 minutes, every time whenever you hit a job in EMR, it is like 8 to 10 minutes to start the process before actually running the main job. 8 to 10 minutes to bootstrap the environment. So that was, again, you are reducing time in AWS Glue, and you are also reducing some kind of costing in AWS Glue. So that comes handy in our case, and that's the reason having to use serverless service would help us to more leaning more towards the AWS Glue side. So that was the main reason utilizing AWS Glue over EMR.
Okay, so I think to sum up, it was just the serverless, like not just the serverless, but all the advantages that you were getting in Glue were because of the serverless nature that it was having. And that is what prompted your team to stick to Glue rather than EMR.
Right.
Of course. Okay. Okay. Then coming to the orchestration tool, we discussed that you were not, I could not hear any, tool like, for example, Airflow or any other tool which you are using for orchestration. So are you using something which is internal to AWS to orchestrate your jobs, or how the orchestration or scheduling is happening so that the repetitive nature of work can be avoided?
Correct. To answer your question, yeah, like we are not using AWS. We are not using Airflow in right now in our project, because that time we were like we are having all the jobs, that is scheduled in step function itself. So step function itself is your kind of roadmap that you can have every job attached to each one. So let's say I have 5 jobs to run. So what I can do, I can leverage the use of step function. I can say, hey, let's run job 2 whenever job 1 gets completed. Let's run job 3 whenever job 1 and job 2 gets completed. So here I am getting parallelism as well as sequential approach. So it was a very well need for our use case. So that's the reason we went to the step function. Now talking about when do you run step function, because we don't have any particular time that you can run step function. Don't have, I believe, as of my knowledge, we don't have any proper scheduling part. Like at that time, your step function would run unless you are having a lambda, external lambda that would trigger your step function. So based on that reason, we were having the event bridge scheduling setup already that would let your step function run every day on 12. So that is the like entire umbrella that we had already. We were not having to use the another orchestration, because the step function was able to have the dependencies between each job and able to provide your job run after one by one. And again, whenever there is a job failure, we had another step that would inform you, because we had already one script that would let you know, hey, the job got succeeded, the job got failed, and in the email or in Teams channel you would get the notification. And based on that, it is like end to end. You can even monitor the job. Even if you are not looking at the screen, you would get to know the through the notification. So that was the reason like we were going with this step function, and it was a very well need for our job case.
So I think this, as far as I'm able to understand, the step function was just letting you know that, okay, this is job 1, this is job 2, and setting up the dependency. But your jobs were defined in cron jobs.
No, cron jobs were basically to schedule basically to hit the step function, wherein in step function itself, we had all the dependencies mentioned. Let's run job 2 after job 1, let's run job 3 after job 1 and job 2. So all the coding part was done itself in the step function, and the cron job just to hit that step function as soon as that time matches. So that is that. Yeah.
Okay. And is this also a serverless service, step function?
Yes, it does serverless service, because you don't need to manage any infrastructure, and it is very well integrated with S3, Lambda, DynamoDB. So you don't need to worry about anything, hardware side, infrastructure side. Wherein in case of Amazon, Apache Airflow, that it is like you need to first making sure that your infra is built. And once your infra is built, then only you can start working on that part. So again, here you are reducing the need of utilizing AWS Airflow instead of the EMR. So like in our case, step function was very well, being a serverless, it was very well use case for ours. We don't need to have the infrastructure set up everything. We just need to started working on the serverless side.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I think every cloud nowadays is pushing towards this serverless kind of things.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So so in a data engineering project, the data quality is a very important component. So how did you implement data quality in this project that you were handling?
Okay, so that's a very good question, to be honest, because it is like a major, requirement that we need to make sure. So basically, like as I mentioned, we have daily data coming. So we need to make sure the data that we are receiving. So it is like the only data that we are extracting, right? So let's say if you are having thousands of data, yesterday you got thousands of data. Today also you are getting 1020 data. But now you need to make sure that you are only extracting the 20 data out of that 1020 records, the latest one basically. So in that case, we have this incremental logic in place, wherein we are just only making sure that we are extracting the required data that we need. Okay, so once the data is extracted, then what we are trying to do, we have some primary columns that cannot be null at any point of time. So we need to make sure that we don't have any null in that in one place. Okay, and then we are doing some kind of duplicate checks as well. So since our data is an outage based data, I mean dealing with the electrical utility, so we need to make sure in an outage we should not have more than one meter ID. So in an outage, we can have only one meter ID because meter is specific to particular home, and we cannot have one meter to two different homes, attached to that particular region. So we are making sure that we don't have duplicate records. We are again checking some kind of schema check, since we know that we are not going to have schema difference, but also more layer of security. We are checking that okay, the data that we received is the static one that we are loading to. So these are the primary check that we are involving in right now.
Okay. Okay. So I think the duplicate check is based on the business requirement, while the primary key check is okay,
Correct.
table specific. Okay.
Correct.
And the row count check you already talked about
Hmm.
that how many rows we want to get in should be equal to how many rows we have put into our S3.
Correct. That's
Okay.
right.
Okay. And a very simple question, that what was the volume of data that you were handling on day-to-day basis?
So since it is a incremental data, and as previously I mentioned, like the reason we moved to Glue because we foresee that we are not going to have that high amount of data. So I can say we are having somewhere around 5 lakh to 15 lakh. It is like more than a million, but not that much that it goes to billions of records. But it is like staying within 5 lakh to 50 lakh. I can say the minimum range would be 5 lakh, my maximum range would be 50 lakhs. So it is the scheduling of job every day, and we are receiving incoming data in between 5 and 50 lakhs.
I think, but when you had done your historical loads at that time, it would have increased, right?
Yes,
Then
yes. That's that. The one-time load, increased very much. So that is only one-time activity. And again, you are having incremental load every day. Yes.
okay. One last question related to the project is that were there any optimizations or any challenging situations that you faced in your project where, for example, you were getting some out of memory error
Mm-hmm.
or something that scaling up and down could not also solve?
Mm-hmm.
So places where you tried to save some cost or save some time in job running so that you could make your process more efficient. So any optimizations that your team and
Mm-hmm.
you and your team implemented uh, to make this more efficient?
Sure. So one of the recent optimization that we notice is that our observation wherein each EMR job what was utilizing, separate EMR cluster. So what do I mean by that? Like it is related to the different project that I'm currently working on, not the one that we have Glue. So it is related to totally on the AWS EMR side. So
Okay.
it is like we observed that it is each job was taking each EMR cluster, and each EMR cluster was utilizing 8 to 10 minutes to bootstrap the process, right? So in order to minimize that, what we did is we implemented a functionality wherein we let all the jobs to run under one EMR itself. So let's say we have one EMR that is running for this is the ideal time that user have provision to provide at what time do I need to keep that EMR cluster active. So if I say 1 hour, so that EMR cluster would be active till 1 hour. And what I will do, I will not create another EMR cluster for different jobs. I would just utilize the existing EMR cluster, and I would say that, hey, just we have one EMR cluster already active, just utilize that EMR cluster. So in that case, let's say if I have 10 jobs to run, then 10 jobs would run in a 1 hour itself. Wherein if I did not had that functionality in place, what I used to do, I used to create 10 different EMR clusters. That 10 EMR clusters would take 10 minutes to bootstrap the process. That is your 100 minutes itself without doing anything, any running your job. And then if your job just run for 2 minutes, so you are spending overall 12 minutes on top of that. So we are reducing, do you see, like out of 12 minutes we are just taking 2 minutes now, and we are just reducing all 10 minutes to bootstrap the process. So that was a very much a very good approach that we identified and implemented, and that's where we save the cost as well as saves the execution time. So that was one of the recent optimization. And talking about other like Spark level optimization, so it is more related to what is your nature of data. So since you are getting data skewness issue, so in our case, like we used to join a very huge data with the very smaller data, wherein in that case we know that Spark provides the functionality of broadcasting, wherein we can just broadcast the smaller data sets to each partitions, and then it would just based on the key, it would just have that data handled. So that was one of the optimization. And before jumping into the Spark side, I believe we first should understand like what we are writing, that is join and where condition. It should be the efficient one. We cannot just take all the data and do all the joinings and all. For we first need to eliminate the data that is not required and then join it with the data that is needed. So that is the first thing that I keep in mind before jumping onto the Spark optimization. I first make sure that the data itself is quite efficient in order to start working on the Spark side. So that is the optimization I can say we did work on.
Okay. Okay. I just have one question related to the first optimization that you talked about, which was at the EMR level, or we can say that at the executor level. So
Mhm.
if you are just trying to run all your jobs on the same EMR, wouldn't that restrict your, parallelism, or, how did you establish that parallelism over there, or you did not require in your project?
So basically, yeah. So let's say let's talk about job one. So I mentioned that job one, let's utilize cluster that is already active. Job one is already running, right? Now my job two, I wanted to use the same EMR cluster. So what I would say, hey, let's you also use the same EMR cluster. Now here is a catch. Like if you are having two jobs on a very higher scale, like these two jobs cannot run on the same EMR cluster. So in that case, yeah, this is a challenge wherein you can have the kind of memory issue wherein your EMR cluster will not be able to handle this kind of resources. So what you can do in that case, you would have the flexibility to do scale up and scale down using user parameters, right? You can have that configuration in a way, that smart way, that you can say that I can, for the next job that I want to run, I just want to have these configurations in place, right? So that way your email cluster would able to handle that situation. But in our case, it is more like our job was to run only for 5 to 10 minutes. So in that case, it is not going to utilize the cluster requirement that much. So the requirement was, we don't want to spend 10 minutes just to run the 5 minutes of job. So it is overall 15 minutes. So we just want to utilize 5 minutes the actual execution time. So in that case, if I have 10 jobs and that is only running for 5 minutes, that is 10 into 5, that is 50 minutes, only for 50 minutes actually. So I don't want to spend 100 and more than 100 minutes just to execution, I mean just to startup time. So that was the small kind of job that wanted to have this functionality in place. Not for the, I mean, it is not suitable for the huge big data job that is going to run for 1 hour and more than 1 hour. So that is not useful for that particular scenario. It is better to use the separate EMR cluster every time for having this kind of resources.
I
Yeah.
think the good part about optimizations was that you covered both the executor level or
Mm.
the hardware level optimizations that you
Mm.
made, plus the Spark level or the coding level or transformation level optimization.
Yes. Yes.
So yeah, okay. One last question. It's not related to the optimizations, but in your project, any of the projects for transformations, which tool are you using? Are you writing your transformations in Glue somewhere, or are you using Databricks or using some other tech stack to uh,
Yeah.
put in your transformations?
So since we are using AWS, so we are based on the project to project, we are using AWS EMR as well as AWS Glue. So all the transformation logics are implemented in EMR itself and Glue itself.
Okay, okay,
Yeah.
understood. Okay, I think we had a great discussion on the project, and these were very well explained by you, as well as all the answers that I was looking forward to. I got it. And this just showcases, that you have a fair understanding of the technology that you're using into your project and also the business. And the answers can be right or wrong depending on the use case, but you were able to put down the use cases as well, that, why I did this because I had this kind of use case. So yeah, that's really great. That's really great an explanation. Okay, so I think this was about something that you already knew and you have worked on. Now coming to the surprise part, that is like the DSA or the Python or the PySpark SQL questions. I I think that you do have your expertise set up in like SQL, Python, and PySpark.
Mhm. Yeah,
Okay.
I do.
Okay, so do you regularly work in your day-to-day life on these three languages?
Yeah, I would say like these are the top component that we everyday use. I mean SQL, Python, and Spark itself. And then in Spark, we are having the functionality to use SQL as well. So yes, these are the major chunks that we use every day.
Um, okay. Okay, great. Great then. I think then I have some set of questions that I would like to discuss. So
Sure.
let me just Okay. Just a second. Okay, I hope you are able to see the screen, right?
I do.
Yeah, okay. So let's quickly get started with a question on PySpark.
Okay.
And yeah, just give me a second. I'll just paste the question here so that it's easy for everyone to see that.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. It's a simple program. I think you would have done it while practicing also. So, yep. It's a simple word count problem. I think it's a basic kind of a problem, but yeah, let's just see. Okay. So, yeah. So basically, it's like a word count problem. You are given a text file, which is sample underscore text.txt, in which you have this text, which is highlighted. And you just need to write a PySpark program to count the occurrences of each word of the file. So yeah,
Okay.
the output can be in this manner, which is shown here. It's like returning two columns. So one is word, one is count. And for every word, you can find out the count. And the order of the words which is coming here, it's your wish. You want to sort it, not sort it. Anyways, we can just have it.
Uh, okay. All right.
Okay. Yeah. If you have any questions, yeah, we can take that up
Mm,
as well.
all right. So like in our day-to-day activity, we are mostly dealing with, Parquet side, CSV side, ORC format, but having unstructured data in place it is tricky, but because you are not going to deal within a big data side, it is not that much frequency. Like basically in our case, it is more like you are reading the structured format itself, but talking about the unstructured data that we have right now. So like Spark provide the feasibility to read data in any format, like whether it is a Parquet, ORC, CSV, TXT format, JSON format that we have. So I believe we have the spark.read.text functionality as well in place, and through that you can just read the sample file that you want to read. So in our case, it is sample underscore text.txt. I would just use that spark.read.text, and inside that I would just provide the path that I want to read from. So let's say in our case, it is S3 bucket. So I would just pass that S3 bucket, and from that bucket, I would just read that data. So, uh,
Okay. Okay.
yep.
So yeah, I think you can try to attempt it. I think the approach is, I mean, it's okay,
Mhm.
but yeah, let's just try to attempt this one as well. Now let's get started with writing. The approach is fine that you told me initially. Yeah.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah. So we
So,
started by creating a data frame, which
correct.
is
So I'm just assuming what would be the output out of this after that one. So here it would be like we would having two columns, word and count, and we would have this hello world, everything in a structured way. something like that. I mean, two columns. Hello world. This is a sample text for testing what program. And what I can do here is I can just split them based on the delimiter that we have. I mean, based on the space that we have. So what it will be like, it will just have the way like that in a list itself. So because I am thinking some approach that would be beneficial in that case, that's the reason I am going with split. So how can I do that? Here is I can use tf.split, and then I can use column that I want to split. So that column would be my, what you can say, okay. Now, so
Yeah, so split function we definitely have to use, but I think you would have to use something else as well.
uh okay, what I'm trying to do over here is like as a final thing. So what I want to have here is I want to make this in a structured format like this. So once I have all the hello world, this is a sample text in a single line, that what I can do, I can just group by this and I can just have the count of each word. So in that case, hello here, and then again, here it is saying two. So where is again hello? Okay. So I think it is not program again. I think it is not fully loaded because we have this, right? So hello is being repeated twice. So in that case, I would have count of hello 2. So once I have this particular structure in place, that is expected output is in place. I mean, the every line I am having for each sentence that each word that we have. So that way I can do that. So what I'm doing over here is I am just going with hello world right now.
Okay.
I'm let me have this. Just a second. Yeah, so my screen is over here. Now I am going with hello world over here. Now what I can do, due to split, I am getting this particular output. Now what I can do, I can further, explode this one into two different rows. Right now it is in one particular row, but I want to have like this hello underscore world. I mean, hello, in another line, world. Likewise, I would need to have all the words in different lines. So what I can do on top of that, I can make use of explode like this, and I can give maybe, I'm not sure it would. Yes. Uh, 3. Yeah. So in
You're
that
going in the
case,
correct direction, yeah. Because when you are reading your data frame, so it
mm-hmm,
will create rows for each of them, right? Like this will be your row 1,
mm-hmm,
because data frame will create a table, right? It
correct,
create a tabular
correct,
structure. So this is going to be a row 1, and then this is going to be a row 2, which and
correct,
this is going to be a row 3. Now, and I think this is there's just going to be a single column, and
correct.
yeah, so you have 4 rows, and then the name of the column would be uh, whatever you want to give, you can have it.
Mm-hmm,
So yeah, now you have created 4 rows, and the column name could be, I think it will be call 1 only, because we have not
mm-hmm.
specified any name, and the header is also not there in the file. So
Sure.
yeah, this could be the column name, and then I think you're trying to split each of this. Maybe you can
Correct.
put this alias name then, that you can do. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you put the alias, and now you're split by
Yes, the space that we have in between the hello world. So that way we would have, a list, and inside that list we would have two elements. One is hello, another one would be world. So that's the reason I did use that split.
okay,
And now I mean, the reason I'm using split is I can further, explode that. So now
right.
using the explode functionality, yeah, it would just have me hello in one line and world in another line.
Yeah.
That case, all the entries would have only one word, right? All the rows would have only one word.
One word. Okay.
Yeah.
And then you are planning to apply some sum function or something to calculate the
Yes,
group by
yes.
between you
Group
will.
by, and that way I would get the count of each word. So that is the plan.
Okay.
So likewise, based on applying the df explode, I would get hello in one row, word in another. That would be my column as each each word. And let's say this is one, this is two. And likewise, I would have all the entries, right? Now, what I can do, and I'm just writing it like that. Now, what I can do over here is, I will let me save it to another df, that is df, uh, df structured, maybe. Let me like that. And then what I can do, I can just have a dot group by on top of that, and that would be for each word that I am having. And
Okay.
then since I am doing group by, and then I need to provide what kind of aggregation I am going to do on top of that. So in our case, I need to have the count of each word. So I would use dot count, and dot show would give me the output like this, like hello, and the count is 2, world count is 2, this count is 1. And then again we can, sort on top of that based on the like whatever we want. So I believe this would be the desired coding that is we need to follow.
Okay. I think the ones that I've highlighted in orange are like the final solution pieces because yeah, we have mixed
Hmm.
steps also. So yeah, first
Yes.
we are trying to do a split so that we get all the words which are there in one sentence which was
Hmm.
loaded. Then we are trying to explode it,
Hmm.
and then we are trying to group by and count so that we get the count.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Taken. Solution taken. Yep. I think we just need to keep in mind that the Spark session was already established. Therefore, we did not write a Spark session creation. And I think all the imports that were done, for example, if you want to use the split function, explode function, you need to
Ah,
the PySpark library for that. Otherwise, it will give you an error. So yeah.
correct. Yeah, I missed that. We need to import that split and call as well. So yeah, that would otherwise give us error. Yep.
Yeah. Okay, then I think this was well attempted.
Yeah.
Let's move to another question. So yeah, trying to increase the size so that it's visible. So yeah, this is more of a programming question. Whichever language you are good with, like either Python, Java, or if it is Scala, you can go ahead with that. It is more of a programming sort. So uh, I think I simply put in the example rather than putting in the okay.
Hmm.
So So here the question is that we are given array prices. So this is basically an array which is having the prices. So where this price I, like each element, is the price of a given stock on that ith day. So for example, this is the first. So for example, if this is the first day, so this is my value of the stock at the first. Like this would be the first day because this is the 0th day. So on the 0th day, my value is 7. Then my value is 1, and so on and so forth. So these are the values of the stocks which are there on each days. Now, since I want to maximize my profit, I everyone wants to maximize their profit. So here I also want to maximize the profit, and I have to choose a single day to buy one stock and choose a different day in future in which I'll be selling that stock. So we have to return how much maximum profit that I can make by doing this purchasing and selling. So yeah, and
Okay.
if there is a situation wherein you are not able to see the profit, then you have to return 0. So if let's try to explain, let me try to explain this using this input and output. So imagine that I buy on this day, which is the second day, which will be like 5 rupees. Okay, and then I sell it on this day, which is like 6 rupees. So now I am having a profit of 1 rupee. 6 minus 5 will give me a
Mm-hmm.
profit of, okay, sorry. We have to get the maximum profit. So we want this value 1, which was there on the first day, and this is there on the value 6. So now when I'll do 6 minus 1, I will get 5, which is my maximum profit out of all the elements which are present here. Like these are the only two combinations which I'm able to see here. This is the only one combination that I'm able to see here through which I can get the maximum profit output. So you have to identify the profit that you're going to make, whichever days it would be. But then the selling day has to be in future, and the purchase obviously will be prior to that. In
Okay.
this case, you see that there is no profit, therefore the output is coming out to be 0. There is no such case. For example, if I purchase on the first day, there is no value, which I can sell later and make a profit out of it. Similarly, yeah. So yeah, there is no case, and therefore we returned a 0 over here. So yeah, can just try to look into the solution now. Yeah.
Okay. 6, 4. So it is more like what I can think of. It is more like we are trying to check two values, and we are making sure that the value that we are purchasing should be the minimum one, and the value that we are going to sell should be the maximum one in order to get the profit, right? So it is more like you would have to have two pointers that are pointing, that are comparing to each other, and trying to see what is the gap between that two, and the comparison will only happen when the first pointer is always less than the next pointer, right? Then that is the only way we can achieve the profit. And in cases like we have, I have 2 rupees today. I buy for 2 rupees, and tomorrow I cannot sell it for 1, because that is again going to have like loss for me. So it is always the current pointer should always be less than the next pointer. So that is one thing I can think of. Uh,
Okay.
right. Since you already mentioned that we cannot sell before buying. So in that case, I cannot use even min and maximum, concept over here, because if I use for the first input that we have, if I use minimum that is 1 and maximum that is 7. So in that case, I am, selling before I am purchasing. So
Yeah,
that is the
yeah. So
so
you need to be a little cautious when you are selecting this. So min and max definitely you can use, but yeah, you have to see how you're using it so that
right,
you're not picking up the element which is off, which is before the
right.
yeah.
Uh, okay. So let me write the approach first. Let me see if it works.
Okay. Yep. Yeah, you can take your time. We have already discussed the approach, and yeah,
Okay.
you can take your time to like
Mm-hmm.
good minutes you can take and just try to put down the solution.
Okay. Wait. Okay. And then, all right. So let me initialize two pointers that I want to use. First one would be the current day. Current, I would use current day. That would always, start with the day 0, and the next day, that would be the next day that I want to compare. So 0 and 1, and I will use this two pointer to iterate the list, and based on that I would achieve the profit. And I let me have I can go with the while loop over here, because that would be more sufficient in my case. And I can say only iterate when I am reaching these I'm reaching these sell, I mean, I want to sell and just check like the sell point that I want to, sell is achieved to the last stage. So that's the reason I am going to use while, and my next day, if it is reached to the last array element, then we need to stop there. So in that case, I can use length of, what is the array name in prices. So it will make sure like we are only looking for the till last day, and we are not uh, going beyond that. Now what I will do, I will have my current profit based on the pointer that I am defining above, and I would say if my next day, so that is prices of next day value. Now if it is, let me book the profit first. Since we have, let me copy the over here. Now, so next, let me book the profit first. So it would be like I'm booking the profit as next day minus current day. This is the ideal scenario that we want. So I'm saying that next day is your, in case like 1 minus 7, that would give you minus 6. Now, that is my current profit based on the pointer that I am providing right now. And
Yeah.
now I have booked my profit. What I can do next is, while it is profit, okay. So what I can say, if next day, that is my 1, I always want to make sure that next day is greater than the current day. If next day is greater than 1, so in that case, I need to make sure that is my profit, because next day is greater than the current one. So I need to book my profit. So what I can say over here is, let's book the profit of whatever we are getting over here. So if I'm talking about any scenario over here, let's say this one, wherein 5 is greater than 1. So in that case, I will book my profit, and then I have already, I also have the current profit in place that I mentioned. So what I can do, I can take either of them. If it is this one or the current profit that I am seeing. So let me initialize profit as 0 as well over here. So it would take that. Else, what I would do in else condition, if it is not the case, like in the scenario that we are having right now, that is 7 and 1, wherein we are having the next day value is less than the current day. So what I can do, I can say that let's skip that, because that is not useful for me. I cannot buy on 7th rupee and sell it on 1. So let's skip that, and let's move our pointer. So the current pointer would now point to the next pointer. So current pointer, that is I have current day. I would just let it increased by 1. So now my current pointer would point to 1 over here. And my next pointer, that is again would be next day. That would be initialized by 1, right? So now I'm pointing to 1 and 5 over here. So current day has become 1 and next day has become 5. Right. So what I will do now, here I can see the profit, because I can buy on 1 and sell on 5th. So this loop, this if condition would satisfied, wherein I'm saying next day is 7, hash 7, and current day is 1. Right. So what I'm saying, if this is the case, then just book the profit. So what kind of profit I'm getting over here is, now my current profit is now based on this 7 minus next day minus 1, here it is 6, and then again it will be like 6 over here. So now I am having a sorry, it is like 1 and 5. It is like process of next day increment by 1 and 1 minus 5 minus 1. So here it would be like 4, and since it satisfies the criteria, now here it would 4 would be comparable with here it would be profit. Profit. Now current profit is 4, and the profit that we are achieving right over here is this one. Satisfies the criteria, get the profit. 1 out of 5, that is 5 minus 1, 4. That is the current profit, and in the previous one there was no profit, so it become like, okay, it is become like 4 in that case. Now again it iterate to the next one, and here, okay, now since I am getting a profit over here, so I know this is my minimum condition, I mean this is my very good starting point, buying starting point, so I am not going to increase my next day from here. I mean it should not, I mean current day should not be increased, so my current day would remain 1, and now my next day would increase by 1, so now it has become 3, right? Now my current day is 1 and next day is 3, so now I will compare again. So what I will get over here is, okay, so 1 and 3 difference is 2 again. Now previous profit was 5, I mean 4, so I cannot replace the 4 with the 3 1, and again I will iterate till end, and now I am getting again like 1 comma 6, so this is the good selling point for me. So I will remain at 1, current day would remain at 1, and this selling point would become 6. So this would become my max after comparing with all the profits that I had. This one become the maximum profit that I can achieve out of this. So the relation would be 1 and 6, and the here the output that I want to receive, that would be based on the uh, current profit that I would be getting, like the subtracting the next day, that is my 6 over here. So after looping all the iteration, what I will get over here is current next day would be my 6 minus current day would be my 1, that remains same 1, and equal to 5. So in that case, in the profit, I would get the maximum profit as, I mean, it would compare with the current profit with the profit, and current profit would be maximum one, because this is the 6 is the highest one in the element. So in that case, I would get the 5 out of that one, and that way I can solve this condition, and it would help me to get the maximum benefit, sticking at the minimum level, and sticking it to the maximum selling point I can have out of this element. So yeah, that would be my approach for this one. I believe it should work the way I'm explaining.
Okay. Yeah, that I would have also asked for this iteration. So yeah, I think you already explained it.
Yeah.
So one question here, like what would be the time and the space complexity that your solution is taking? Do you know that?
To be honest, like I haven't got to that point where I can extract the time and space complexity, because we are not having that much leaning towards the DSA side in our day-to-day activity. So we are not that working on that high side, to be honest. So I can work on a small to moderate kind of problem, but having to apply DSA space and time complexity, I'm sorry about that, but I don't have knowledge at that point.
But I think with the kind of answers I got from you, space and time complexity would not be a very difficult topic for you. So just even
Yeah.
for these moderate level questions, it's very well done. Like this one is very well done. We solved it and we nailed the question. But yeah, I think if you will just, this is one feedback from my side, because seeing the logic and
Sure.
seeing the explanations that you have given, it seems that the topic is not going to take much for you. So
Yeah, definitely. I can definitely learn about that after the interview call. Sure.
yeah, sure. Okay. I think that was pretty much from my side. I don't have any further questions to discuss. So
All right.